stone, which I don't think it was, but it's describing those perfect joins that you see in the real megalithic work from Egypt. So it's this giant mystery. We know it's there, and it was kind of lost to time until we found it again, basically. It was discovered, it was always known about because there were clues about its location. It was always theorized to have been at this place called Hawara, which is near the Fayum in Egypt. And Petrie went there and dug it up, Flinders Petrie in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he found massive stone slabs, and he thought he was standing on its foundation like it's been quarried and taken away. And rather than that, though, it turns out he was most likely standing on the roof of like the top layers, like 10 meters below the ground.
Is so
he never got
nuts
quite in. But then in the Matterhorn expedition happened, I think, in the mid 2017 or 2015. There was an expedition run by a guy named Louis de Cordier in partnership with the Egyptian government. They used ground penetrating radar, sonic techniques, like well established subsurface techniques. And they found it. They found these massive cyclopean walls that were meters thick. It was a labyrinthian structure. It's well verified below the water table level of what's on that site now. So you have water table sort of 5 meters below the surface. The labyrinth starts at 9.
No, it doesn't want to let me on it.
And there was some controversy around that report because it was buried. So he found it. They never published the report. It was squashed by Zahi Hawass. This is according to Louis de Cordier. He threatened him and his team with national security sanctions if they talked about it. It was put away. He waited a few years and finally released the report. It's like, holy shit, we found the labyrinth. And then this spurred some other companies to use some of these new space-based scanning techniques. There's been at least 2 that have been done, very different techniques, but they found the same thing. They found that there is, in fact, a massive underground structure at this place called Hawara. It goes much deeper than what you could reach with those ground-penetrating radar and those established techniques.
I thought
60, 70 meters below the ground. There's multiple levels, 3 or 4 levels. And they correlate those. So one scans a statistical model, another one is that uses high-frequency photography along with, I think, seismic data, very similar to the Doppler tomography work that's being done by the Italians at places like the Giza Plateau now. And they both correlate. Yes, there's a big structure, but one of the most interesting facts that came out of this scan was it seems like in this massive central atrium that's this one big, giant open rooms, 40, 50 meters long, that connects to all of these levels. There seems to be this unidentified metallic object that's freestanding in this room. It's about 40 meters long, and it seems to be tic-tac shaped, is what this report said. So
it's a fucking UFO. It's a UFO in Egypt.
The aliens did it. I don't know.
I mean,
it's tantalizing.
What am I supposed to be doing here?
Can you imagine if they get in there and they really do find
I pick a recovered
spacecraft?
What weapon did you pick?
Yeah, what do we do with that? Because if this is a public excavation, that's the question. Yeah. We have to bring in the SEALs. We need to lock that place down. Maybe we need to occupy Egypt just to figure out how to fucking get this done.
Occupy Hawara. Let's just just Hawara.
You'd have to occupy the whole country. You'd have to bribe them something. Give them money. Whatever you got to do. Like if I was president, that would be like my number 1 priority.
I mean, doing the mission or what?
Yeah, it has the potential. I think there's been a little bit more of this from Egypt. I guess the establishment there, they seem a little more willing to engage in some of the mystery. I genuinely do think that discoveries like these can only help.
No, I'm stuck
tours.
on
Like it's
my monitor. I can't get over there.
It will bring way more. Could you imagine if they actually figure out a way to drain all the water out of the labyrinth? They give you a tour.
It took me a little bit too. I had to
the
keep bashing this.
How much you paying to see the spaceship, bro? I'm paying a ton of money to go see that spaceship.
That's a special permission. Like that's the way we do. They're very good at that. Like there's a lot of places you can now go in Egypt that are these special permissions. It's thousands of dollars, but we go.
Much.
No, surely you had this
charge like 10 grand. They could charge like a lot of money just to go look at the spaceship. It'd be like Mecca.
I don't think mine's like that, bro.
It would be insane to see. Depends what. Who knows what? Well, the guy did say too. It didn't seem like any metal that he'd seen.
You better get.
You
better get creative and get out of
there.
Right,
for sure. It's alien.
What are you
talking
about?
It's made out of the same stuff that Comet's made out of. The AI Atlas.
Oh yeah, 3
I got a spear and a sword.
The thing that's off-gassing some nickel.
But this shit, look.
Nickel alloy.
You're way ahead of
It's a nickel the size of Manhattan.
No, after did you submit the Beehive?
Although didn't NASA came in? They think they released their
submit the
images,
Beehive
recently.
There's some
you didn't grab the Beehive? Are you not doing the quest?
It's doing a lot of weird stuff.
I'm following whatever it says on the left.
Be a comet.
Yeah.
Unless you ask, obviously.
What did I?
He's like, anything can be a spaceship.
Yeah,
He's got a point. He's got a point.
He does. We don't know what one would look like. We've not seen.
Yeah.
Yo,
I mean,
Andrew,
it's a
you did
small
this, right?
sample size as it is for interstellar objects, right? We
Yeah.
have 3
What weapon
to
did you
compare,
choose?
but 2 of them have been really fucking weird. So
I think the point we're getting at is, and this is the point of
The
all these
dozer?
conversations, is that there's
you
some
did choose 2?
stuff that is yet to be discovered, that has previously been discovered, that might be like it
chose the
might
twin blades
blow the
and,
dam down on all
Hyperdrive?
this stuff to the point where like, okay, whatever you think happened here, a lot more happened, and it seems way crazier. If the stuff underneath the Giza Plateau is
No,
correct,
okay, guys,
and if
guys,
the
look
stuff,
at my screen. Look at my
which is
screen. No,
like
you guys
what?
are-
And if the labyrinth, if they can show
one of these
that,
did you
that
pick?
this not only was Herodotus depicting
which one of these did you
an
pick?
actual place,
Yeah.
but we can show it to you and it's preserved and it's been under the water for 50 years.
yeah, it would be amazing.
Did you
And-
not
and
get this
yes, I
menu
think
either?
Some of these things would knock down.
What are you guys doing?
Everything.
It's
Which
a
one of
house
these
of
did you
cards,
pick?
right? I think there are elements of that are in that are obvious. I mean, not obvious, but people can explore them, and it starts to knock down the house of cards. That's how people end up with this. Just looking at the contradictions in ancient Egypt, but there are other examples of what I would say
kinda wanna
like
choose
things
the-
like the Matterhorn expedition that have
I kinda
been
wanna choose the
discovered
umbrella.
but then
Is that
sort of
crazy?
covered up and kept secret.
Right.
And a lot of them have to do with you have the same tie-in with these ancient stories and accounts from history, not just from the Roman and Greek historians, but also the Arab historians.
just
like
turned in the
Al-Masudi,
beehive.
for example, the Herodotus of the Arabs, they called him.
You guys
know,
got
he,
it.
he
Fucking
talked about
screen
tales of these tunnels
Or
and
should I do the
chambers
fan?
beneath the Sphinx, that there were rooms beneath the Sphinx that
I don't
then
wanna
led
heal.
out to like 3 different tunnels. You have a number of other Arab
Yeah, I
historians
kinda wanna
from
do the
as far back
umbrella
as, like,
too, bro,
600
but,
AD
like-
that have stories of getting into the pyramids and then getting lost in tunnels and chambers beneath them. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these.
The twin
You
blades,
hear
yes.
these stories of like the Hall of Records, right? The people like Edgar Casey, the American psychic in the 1940s. Who,
the dual blades. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
have you heard of Edgar Casey?
Yes.
You must have. Yeah,
Might just
he
rip
would
the
fall into
umbrella,
these
bro.
trance-like
But it feels
states,
weird
and he'd
'cause
have these
I
visions.
guess
He's
I
called
do,
like
yeah.
the sleeping prophet. They
Kinda
would
weird
call
if I
him,
ripped
or
the
he's like
umbrella,
one of the Americans' psychic. And it wasn't just about
Should I just
things
restart?
around Egypt. He did
a woman
prophesize and talk about locations for 3 halls of records, which
say
are these
yeah?
Atlantean
No, bro.
caches of information, like a pre-Diluvian civilization. He did call it Atlantis. But he would also have
I
these
can heal,
predictions about
tank,
the stock
melee
market,
DPS,
and a
or
lot of
range
people made a lot of
DPS.
money based on his predictions, and that led to the
He was really good at it?
yeah. So apparently, whether it was luck, I don't know.
What are you gonna choose, Buggy? You can heal.
Because that's always the question when it comes to like psychics.
Psychics?
If you were a real psychic, why wouldn't you make all the money in the world?
Well,
I'm about to
Six,
choose-
like,
It did happen. There was a lot of people made a lot of money, and he did
I'm
evidently
about to
too
hit
as
the,
well.
I'm about to hit
And
the fan.
Yeah,
so that led to the formation of
Wolf,
something called
bruh.
the Edgar Casey Foundation, or the ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment is the name of them. They're still going strong today, and they've been looking to try and find his halls of records,
What
and
the
they've been trying to
fuck?
verify the Casey's predictions. One in particular that they've been chasing down is,
y'all
is
going?
the
I want the
famous hall of
umbrella.
records, which he said was beneath the paws of the Sphinx.
This choice
So
cannot
it's
be
not,
undone.
the stories of this hall of
Whatever.
records and these rooms beneath
Look at
the
these
Sphinx go
guys.
back thousands of years. Like, I mean, just not just the Arabs, but also Herodotus and these other guys also talked
Wild.
about that whole area, the Sphinx and everything else being vastly more ancient even than the pyramids.
I'm a dude with
But
rocking
there
an
was
umbrella.
some
bro.
work done that happened in
What is
recent
this
times, like in the
popping up on my
1990s.
screen,
Well,
bro?
there's been a search going
Like
on since
ads.
the early 70s that the ARE has been involved in. And a lot of this is
You
quite
see that?
secretive. A lot of this has never really come to light.
The
But there's
top?
some, until very recently, in fact, there's been some footage that came up that showed that there are, in fact, tunnels beneath the Sphinx that may well have been explored. We're not quite sure. But it's an interesting story. So it does involve
Missed it.
Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass, who are the authoritative figures involved in Egypt.
Whoa, the
Are they
umbrella's kind of
bottlenecking this as well?
fucking
Do I
nuts,
have to
bro.
go give them a hug?
Maybe.
Come on, guys, join us.
Allegedly.
We'll blow you up. We'll make you like
You
so
don't know how to
much more
play in your
popular.
13?
We'll help.
It
We'll
should
get
be.
you more tourism.
That's
yeah,
and that's
I made a
think
good decision,
the
bro. The
current
umbrella's
guys that have been
fucking
running
crazy,
the Department
bro.
of Antiquities are embracing a little bit of that idea, but I do think there's been a little bit of gatekeeping that's happened.
Well, I
in
think
this
it's
in
a
particular.
generational generational thing.
I agree.
You know, and I think when you are an academic or you are a person
calling for my horse, bro,
power like Zahi is, and you've been running things for so long, and this new thing comes along, it's very threatening. You know, and when there's a lot of movement and momentum behind it, it's very threatening. But that thing will just embrace you. You say, oh my goodness, look what we've learned. We've learned more new, amazing things about, wait for it, Egyptians.
Yes.
Like, it's the same people. It's just older. It's just older versions. Like, this is why it's so dumb. It's like you are only allowing part of the narrative to go through about how magnificent this culture is. It's already the most magnificent culture in human civilization. And in terms of history, when we look at it, nothing's anything like Egypt. It's crazy.
No, and it would
imagine it's bigger and crazier,
richer. It just richer and a longer history in this place. It's still like it is. It is
the most magical place in the world.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I was just talking about this just yesterday. In fact, the nature of establishment being to resist change, right? It's unfortunate
and control.
Control and to resist change, and it's
maintain control, not lose control. That was the fear. The fear is if I am a self-professed expert with an institution behind me with a nice name, and then all of a sudden some fucking asshole with an Australian accent comes along who's a tech guy who becomes a YouTuber because he watched some asshole's podcast when he was younger.
Yep, pretty much.
That's it. True. But it's you and Graham and Jimmy Corsetti and all these other amazing people, and you guys are you're showing the world that there's another side to a lot of these stories, and it's a legitimate side. It's not just a legitimate; it's an unfathomable side. When you're looking at some of the stuff like Baalbek, there's unfathomable things that no one is saying they're unfathomable. No one's saying
what happened to my quest.
Everyone is saying, "Don't worry about it. We got it all figured out." Like that's crazy.
I agree. I think
they just stole my horse.
And I think I've made this point before, but it's the nature of the discourse that's changed that has forced, I think, a stronger reaction from the establishment.
Yeah, the general public views things differently.
Well, the general public's involved in the discussion now. If you go back more than 60, 70 years, I mean, general public didn't have access to this information. These discussions only happened in societies and in universities, but with the rise of firstly alternative authors and then the internet, now everybody's got a chance to have a platform and a set of ears to hear this information. And it becomes more popular. Guys like you have had a huge impact on the popularity of these topics. And that's, I think, what is threatening.
They've always been popular. The problem is they haven't been legitimized. Like, these ideas have always been popular. It's just nobody gets. It's like there's a food that you want that no one's serving. You know what I mean? That's what it's like. It's not like it wasn't popular.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not unique in my interest in ancient Egypt or in ancient civilizations. Just everybody has. Look at when they ask men, like, what do you think about ancient Rome? Guys think about ancient Rome all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a normal part of being a person that lives in a current civilization, wondering what it was like in the past. And then when you see something like Egypt, you're like, none of this makes sense.
No, there's massive contradictions, and I think
it's so old.
Well, it does, and I think what's made this, well, let's call it alternative perspective, much more possible, even plausible, is all of the adjacent fields of science and work that is basically providing a plausible context for these ideas that there was an ancient lost civilization that is responsible for the roots of some of the things we see in these civilizations, responsible for some of the technological enigmas that we find on these sites. And that, this is all stuff that's happened in recent years in adjacent fields of science, things like the extension of the human timeline, the evidence for severe erosion on these sites, our understanding of climate history and
the extension
and cataclysm.
Of the human timeline is huge.
That's huge.
Because, Jesse Michaels and I were just having a conversation about this. I was like, imagine if you would not lose any cognitive abilities, no decline at all, and modern science figured out a way to let you live 1,000 years. Imagine if you're a person who's working on material sciences and you're doing like 3D printing. You get to live 1,000 years, and you're a researcher, and you still show up at work every day for 1,000 years or 10,000 years. That sounds nuts, but it doesn't. Because if you can extend life, for a very prolonged, especially with gene editing and a lot of the other crazy. Who knows if they already figured that out back then? Data brokers are invading your privacy. They're recording everything you do online, and if you live in the U.S., they're selling your information to anyone and everyone who's willing to buy it. But thankfully, there's a way to stop all the tracking and spying, and that's with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is an app that hides your IP address and reroutes 100% of your online activity to secure, encrypted servers. This keeps data brokers from tracking your information, protecting you from invasive advertisers, scammers, and even criminals. And ExpressVPN is now offering 3 different plans, allowing you to customize your VPN experience. The basic plan starts as low as $3.49 a month. That's less than 12 cents a day. Or if you want all the bells and whistles, including identity protection, credit monitoring, and a dedicated IP, just choose one of their more premium plans. It's up to you. Plus, right now, you can get 4 extra months of service if you tap the banner or go to expressvpn.com/Rogan. That's a price as low as $3.49 a month plus 4 extra months of service. Go to expressvpn.com/Rogan. And if you're watching on YouTube, get your 4 extra months by scanning the QR code on screen or by clicking the link in the description.
I mean, there seems to be some evidence that they might have, because
what about the Sumerian kings list?
Well, this is a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, not just them, but almost every civilization that talks about, even the Bible, it talks about pre-Diluvian or pre-flood civilizations, often talks about people living for hundreds of years, if not longer than that, thousands of years. You have an Egyptian's kings list that does the same thing. But even in the Bible, you know, Noah was 600, right? So you have, I think something like that. You have many examples of these, what they would describe as pre-cataclysm or pre-flood civilizations where people live for a long time. But you just, I mean, not just, there's an extension of individual human timeline, but we also know that there's an extension of the human, like how long humans have been here.
Right.
Right? Because that's going back further and further all the time. We have skulls and fossil record evidence now where it's just slightly more than 300,000 years. Genetic and studies into teeth morphology make the possibility open to, whatever, 700,000-800,000 years. There was a skull found. Yeah, I mean, I think that's more of a Homo sapien clade skull, so it's like may not be Homo sapien exactly us. It might be a variety, but that's a whole other aspect on this too, is that where the last humans left, right? There were other types of humans that we know lived for, in some cases, a couple million years that had similar, like even bigger brain sizes than we did. We don't really know what their capabilities were. We only can work with ourselves.
Can't get over to my screen, buddy.
You combine that lengthening of time of like, okay, you have an intelligent social species that has the ability to build on knowledge of your ancestors. So, one guy spends his life making the spear, the next guy spends his life perfecting how to throw it. It's just, we have this unique ability to stand on this knowledge that's passed down from our direct ancestors and therefore build up our capability, and inevitably leads towards civilization. And if you stretch that way back in time, and now you look at things like the climate history and the history of cataclysm on this planet, this possibility that these civilizations may have arisen and then been completely destroyed at some point over the last several 100,000 years.
Enhanced gear.
You can't just dismiss that. There's a strong possibility that it's possible. And in fact, there seems to be a lot of other contextual evidence to support it in origin tales, in stories, in the echoes of sacred geometry and advanced mathematics and knowledge of the cosmos, and also planetary dimensions and geodetic data, all this stuff that's encoded into these monuments and into these stories and tales.
Since I picked the umbrella bear, do I have to use the umbrella?
How these so-called primitive civilizations, like the Egyptians or the Sumerians, knew this information, yet it's there and it's encoded in their monuments and in their data. But we can't explain. Even the Greeks, you can't explain the precision of some of the aspects of things like the pyramids. But yeah, I mean, you just, and again, with the cataclysms that we know have happened, the Younger Dryas just being the most recent, but if you go back several 100,000 years, you have these massive, interglacial periods and glacial maximum periods, right? That these cycles that we go through, where you have this big glaciation build-up, and then you have just, these what must have been catastrophic floods, and then interglacial periods. In fact, there was
the gift with Ruby.
A period called the Aeolian period, about 120,000 years ago. That was very much like the Holocene that we're in today. In fact, it lasted longer than the Holocene has currently lasted. We've been in the Holocene maybe 10,000 years, 10, 11,000 years. I think the Aeolian period was more than 15 to 20,000 years, where it was stable weather. Sea levels were like 3-4 meters higher than where they are today, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't like it wasn't like the height of a glacial maximum where it's a difficult place to live. It was a calm period. I mean, the only reason our civilization is here today is because of the nice weather of the Holocene, right? We have warm weather. We haven't had like massive catastrophes that have been like, extinction level events kind of thing. To get in our way and knock us back to the Stone Age. There was a similar period like that lasted longer than we've been in this nice period, about 120,000 years ago. And if you consider after that the cycles of glaciation and flooding, then particularly the Younger Dryas, there'd been just almost nothing left. It just the stone places that survived what happened afterwards. So I do like my range of possibilities for when did these artifacts originate? Like, when did some of this architecture originally be built? It's not, to me, just 15,000 years ago. It could be 100, 200,000 years, or even more. And again, more contextual evidence to support that is things like the erosion that we can see on some of these sites. One of my favorite topics in the last couple of years has been looking at the erosion on the Giza Plateau.
There's bling,
and
bro.
Some of the big monuments, in particular, like the whole Middle Pyramid complex on the Giza Plateau.
Let's show some of the images that you used in some of your videos, because it's pretty fascinating when you look at it. It's kind of undeniable.
It is, and what's fun about this is that we don't have to guess, right? We know how long it takes. Studies have been done about like limestone erosion. Turns out there's almost an endless number of conveniently dated limestone slabs all around the world. They're tombstones in cemeteries, right? So they get dated, they get cut, they get inscribed with the date when it was put up, and then so you can measure it, and you can come back over whatever decades and measure erosion. And so how long does it take for this face of this limestone erosion to recede?
This is the nutty stuff.
Yeah, and
because we're assuming that unless something happened to the outside of that this was at one point in time flat and smooth.
100%, because there are still blocks that are protected. So a lot of this has been rebuilt. This is tricky to see. So you can actually see that the less eroded sections are actually modern restorations, because this is so eroded that it's falling apart.
Right.
And this isn't even the exterior of this structure. This is the interior core masonry. All of this was also, for God knows how many thousands of years, encased in granite.
It also points to a trend, which points to a pattern that when human beings find
level 6 my ass.
They do renovations to try to keep them. Yeah. Which is one of the things that's been.
Why am I on a bear? Why is your name being
There's so many structures that seem like there's multiple timelines working.
Wait, you're at the bear again?
Ground.
It is 100% a human tendency to renovate. And
Wait, are you level 6 already, Boogie?
All of these to reuse these sites.
Even in a gross way, like what they do with the Sphinx, like the paws. That's gross.
It is. But we're renovating it and restoring it to use it as a tourist attraction. Like the Romans renovated it and restored it to use as a ceremonial center.
But it's a very shitty version.
Oh, I agree.
Of the original.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's a lot of assumptions. You're assuming you knew the form of it. You're making your own form. Over the feet.
I have a problem. Yes, that was one of my problems with they were talking about restoring the middle pyramid, like the third pyramid, like the Menkaure pyramid, the small one.
Yeah.
It's small. It's monstrous. But it has the granite casing stones, right? And the last of the top 4 or 5 courses are still there, but it was at least 15, 16 courses of granite, and there's all this granite, these massive granite blocks and rubble. And Mustafa Waziri, who was at the time the head of the Department of Antiquities, was talking about, we're going to rebuild it. We're going to put it back together.
God.
And I know this, and I'm like, please no, because...
What an asshole.
Well... He did something cool, which was he excavated in front of it. He did show that the courses keep going down, but then he's like, we're going to restore it. I'm like, dude, that would use concrete. It would be a facsimile of what it once was.
Is he still around?
No, he actually, because he said that, there was a lot of international outcry for that very reason. And then, in fact, the government formed a tribunal to figure out what to do. The tribunal was headed by Zahi Hawass, and he lost his job. So, he's not in that. Yeah,
don't restore pyramids,
it's not
bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Nobody wants to see the restored pyramid. I want to see what's left.
Yes. Well, we can use our imaginations to. They are restoring a lot of things. I don't necessarily agree with this either. Things that are actively falling apart, sure, you need to buttress them. Like a lot of this wall. So this is part of the Middle Pyramid complex at Giza, and there's a lot of blocks like this. There are limestone blocks that are 11, 12 meters long, like 4 meters wide, 200-300 tons, that were stacked up on top of each other, and they eroded so greatly on the inside that they've actually fallen over. At some point in antiquity, they've fallen off, and so they are trying to buttress and support things that are going to fall. I'm all for that, but there's a lot. Just the amount of erosion that it takes for that to happen to blocks like this of this nummulitic limestone, which is a very hard form of limestone, full of fossils, and it's you're talking like 2-3 feet in some places of erosion of limestone. And if you look at the studies that have been done into like limestone erosion rates, and there's been several. They've studied them in coastal wave action environments where it's like getting battered by waves. They put in rivers, they put limestone cubes on the top of one of the governmental buildings in DC and left it there and studied it over decades, and like, okay, tiny amounts. But in a normal weathering environment, right? This is assuming a lot more rainfall than what happens in Egypt.
I'm learning leaping toad.
Which gets very little rainfall, by the way. But a place like Washington, D.C. or
I just stole
somewhere where you get like 40 inches of rain a year, something like that, it would take just normal weathering erosion to do 2 feet of erosion like this more than 100,000 years. And so, and that's, I think you can extend that because if the thing is, maybe there was more rainfall here at some point. We know there was since about 4000 BC. The African humid period was in place. That's another big, I think, tell for what happened, particularly on the Giza Plateau and the sites in Egypt. In that, one of the things that always mystified me about the Sphinx is like, it's spent so much time buried in sand up to its chest over the last several thousand years, more time than it hasn't been. We have to work pretty hard to keep the sand out of it now. In fact, there were multiple attempts to dig it out of the sand in the 1800s that failed, and then they just literally 2 or 3 years later, it's sort of buried up to its chest again. It seems like a design flaw. Like, why would you build this thing in a low spot in a windy desert where it's going to fill with sand? It's just, I don't think
it's like a side quest or something.
Khafra. That's right. And then, wasn't there an inscription where Khafra said that if he could uncover the Sphinx, he would be the pharaoh?
This is right. It's actually Thutmose IV. That's called there's a stele in front of in the chest in there in the Sphinx.
So Thutmose IV.
About 1,000 years later,
he was the one that was saying if he uncovered it.
So we knew it was buried in sand during the dynastic Egyptian civilization.
That was what I was going to get to.
Yes.
So that during that time, no erosion.
Well, this is a whole so there's a whole other
so it's protected.
Right. So this is another big issue with
the boss.
The wind and sand erosion. When you talk specifically about the Sphinx enclosure, I mean, this is one of the big controversial.
Here's the big one. The face isn't eroded.
Exactly.
And if it's wind and sand, that's the only thing that's exposed, and that's not as eroded.
It's been one of my major points for a long time. It is, to be fair, the yardang, the sedimentary layers of limestone. It is a slightly harder form of limestone, but still, you're talking thousands and thousands of years where the only thing above the sand level was basically the face. And and they explain all of this deep erosion on the body of the Sphinx and the Sphinx enclosure to wind and sand. I know, obviously, Robert Schoch is a different interpretation. But yes, you would see erosion on that, but you just don't. I think the most plausible explanation for that Sphinx is that, yes, the face was recarved in the dynastic period. Probably it could have been by Khafra. Actually, may well have been before that as well, because there's other evidence that suggests that the Sphinx was already buried in sand at his time. The attribution to Khafra comes from two main sources. One is its position. So where the Sphinx is, you have the Middle Pyramid, you have the causeway that runs down, and you have the Middle Pyramid, you have the Pyramid Temple, the complex where we were seeing that erosion. You have this massive causeway that runs down to then the Valley Temple, which is this, very famous, massive megalithic structure. And right next to the Valley Temple is the Sphinx. And in front of that is the Sphinx Temple. So they sort of attribute it and make it, it's part of the Middle Pyramid complex. The other attribution comes from what's been written on that dream stele between in the legs of the Sphinx at its chest. It does say Khafra on there, but there's a lot of...
I don't see
it's a controversial statement to say that means Khafra built it. there were several Egyptologists who had different, and this is back in the early 1900s. They had different interpretations for what that said. What they believe it said was Khafra was
where you at, kid?
Trying to do what his ancestors had done, had done before, or that Thutmose was trying to do what his ancestors had done before, and Khafra is mentioned there in terms of dig it out of the sand and become king. Like excavate it from the sand.
That's the move that everybody goes through.
Well, it's also, I think it's it could be a great explanation for that dream style. It could also just be like governmental propaganda, right? So you could put that in there and say, see, I'm divinely ordained to be king because I dug this out of the sand.
Just in the interest of keeping this standalone, please explain to people the whole deal with Dr. Robert Schoch from Boston University and the water erosion.
Yes.
I know, and if you've heard this before, I'm sorry. I just want it for people that are like, what? The water erosion that appears to be thousands of years of rainfall.
Yeah, it's actually good. It's good background context because it does apply to not only the Sphinx. It's the most famous example, I think, and well-known example of again an adjacent field of science coming in and challenging some of the doctrine that's been around Egyptology. But it was actually Schwaller de Lubitz who originally, I think, proposed it. His work was followed up by John Anthony West, who then brought Dr. Robert Schoch, who's a professor of geology at Boston University, to the Sphinx. This was, I believe, the late 80s, early 90s. And he went and looked at the erosional pattern. So the Sphinx sits inside an enclosure. It's carved from bedrock, so it was originally what you would call a yardang, which is like a limestone outcropping. And they cut down in this big enclosure, and they cut the floor, and then they sort of shaped the Sphinx from this natural outcropping of bedrock. So you had, and we know this because the structure next to the Sphinx or in front of it called the Sphinx Temple is actually, you can line up the sedimentary layers of the blocks that are in there from the Sphinx enclosure. So we know that there were blocks taken from here. So this is all predictably sort of cut walls, and the Sphinx would have been nicely finished when it was. And he looked at these patterns. If you go there today, I think I have pictures of the walls of the Sphinx enclosure in there, and it's just these deeply eroded vertical channels. And the Sphinx body's harder to tell because it's been restored so many times. The ancient Egyptians restored it, the Romans restored it, we restored it a couple different times.
Assholes.
Yeah, it's fine. But the nice thing is the walls of the enclosure really haven't been touched. So you can see the natural erosive patterns. He looked at that and went, that's rainfall erosion. But not just some rainfall erosion, literally the result of thousands of years. It's the only way you would get these patterns in the stone is thousands of years of rainfall erosion. Obviously, Giza's are really, really dry. I mean, Egypt's a really dry place these days. You have to go back to time periods pre-4000 BC when the Sahara was a savanna. It was grasslands with lake basins and river systems, and it had a lot more rain. You didn't have this annual flood cycle that you have now. It was like a lot more rainfall. It was much more verdant and green. The Giza Plateau would have been green.
And it too much.
That's why they would settle there in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, when they didn't build it in a desert. I mean, you wouldn't, because it would fill up with sand.
It also makes sense why they would flourish, because they had so much resources, because it was like so green and fertile. Right. Probably had plenty of plants, plenty of animals.
Well, there's a really good point associated with that I wanted to bring up. But first, just to finish on the Sphinx erosion. So when Schoch came out and said this, he really thought he was moving the story forward, and he took it to an archaeological conference, and they literally laughed him out of the room, and they said, "This is ridiculous."
You guys are already fighting
like, where are the potsherds was, I think, Mark Laner's
You didn't invite him?
Yeah. Saying, like, where's the evidence that something's at least 12,000 years old? Mocking them, yeah. So he got a good taste of the old boy network of the archaeologists on that day. But he's being very conservative in that dating also, of saying, well, 12,000 years. It could well be tens of thousands of years. And in fact, it seems more likely to me based on the erosional evidence that we see not only in the Sphinx enclosure, but elsewhere on the Giza Plateau. There's many places where you see just a huge amount of erosion that you can't really explain within the timelines and the climate of dynastic Egypt as we know it from roughly 3000 BC till even now, because it's still eroding, right? But
I'm fighting somebody named Zhang Lang.
Vastly more ancient. I actually think there's something else that came out Was it earlier this year? I think it was much earlier this year, or maybe late last year. But there was a study done that showed that during the African humid period, so this period of time before the desertification of Egypt, the Sahara becoming a desert, when it was green and there was more consistent rainfall, there was obviously a lot more water in the Nile, as we call it, and it had different channels. One of the things they discovered was that there was a branch of the River Nile. Then it's called the Aramat branch. And it was in places up to a kilometre, most of a mile wide. So it was quite an extensive branch. But it turns out that all of these valley temples on all of these pyramid sites, from Dashur, Saqqara, Abu Sir, Abu Ghurab, Giza, all of those valley temples were built on the shores of this extinct branch of the Nile. So it's like pyramids. When you look at a pyramid, it's not just a pyramid, there's a whole complex associated with it. There's a temple, or there's a structure at the pyramid, there's a causeway, there's what they call valley temples.
Man, I don't know how to bow.
And it's like, these were all built on the shorelines of this branch of the Nile that basically disappeared somewhere between 4,000 and 3,500 BC, but it was in place for thousands and thousands of years before that. And today, if you go there and they say, well, you know, the Valley Temple, they would ship the stones from Aswan, and it'd be like 3 months of the year it would flood enough where you can get a boat in. I mean, I've seen pictures. There are pictures of when that flood happened before they built the dam and stopped that process. And in some years, it's a puddle. Like, there's not, I mean, you're talking about boats that were carrying hundreds of tons of granite. And only in a 3-month period of year can you get them in there. There would have been many years where there's not even remotely enough water to get it anywhere near the Valley Temple.
I don't think they even used boats.
Oh, no, I don't either. I mean,
it sounds crazy to say, but I think they had a technology that we haven't even begun to mess with yet.
The logistical achievements of the ancient Egypt, of what is represented in ancient Egypt, is like nothing you can see anywhere. I mean, there's Baalbek, and then there's, to me, the best example is the statue at Tanis. There's a statue. I mean, there's several of these 1,000+ ton statues. Like half a dozen of them. You get remnants of them. But there was one that was moved 1,000 kilometers. Like 1,000 kilometers.
I'm almost level 6.
It's a single piece granite statue, easily 1,000 tons.
Show that image, Jamie, if you would, please.
I think it's giant objects in there or something.
We're making it.
There's, I mean, and this is Tanis in the delta, Aswan down here at the quarry. I mean, downstream on the Nile, there's another example of the one at Karnak that's the whole shoulder and arm of a composite quartzite. Again, gigantic. It's the size of the Statue of Liberty, basically. Like single piece granite, solid statue. I mean, there's all these pieces.
I keep getting these fucking lifesaver looking things.
That's look at the people in the background and say that's a small one.
Nah, it's only 200 tons. I mean, it's 250 maybe. It's not. You have them 10 times almost that size.
The crazy thing is also how beautiful it is.
Oh,
like how symmetrical it is.
The workmanship on these is astonishing, and you can still feel
echoes
like
in the shrine.
Signs, I think, when you get to the finishing on some of these statues. That's a giant kneecap. There's one with an arm and a shoulder sort of poking out. That's a really good example. And that's Baalbek. Yeah.
The point is, like when you talk about how beautiful that, like how that one that's lying down, Jamie. Oh, there's
he does.
The back one, couple. That one.
Yeah.
To look at the finishing on that, like how incredible. You see his nipple. You see all the, you know what I mean? Thousands of years later, you see the detail on the headdress. You see all, and then you have to realize like this was done with people that didn't have steel.
Yeah, and you can
supposedly.
Right. Definitely. I mean, later periods, like in the New Kingdom, they had some more iron, not necessarily steel. But you notice something else here. Like, see that cartouche?
Mm-hmm.
See how poor that is relative.
So
to
I have to wait till level 10
and the
chest.
So this is the other thing that happened. This is why no one's sort of like, you don't get archaeologists saying, well, there's statues. We don't know who made it. We know who made it because they put their name on it. That is literally Ramses II's cartouche right there. I recognize it anyway.
I did not get that.
That's awesome that you recognize that.
If you come to Egypt, you'll recognize it too.
That's so cool.
Show it.
I got us, bro.
He was.
Don't worry, bro.
Petrie called Ramses II the Great Usurper because he put his name on fucking everything. Like he carved it in deep like this too. He would have it.
Oh wait, it's telling me about
his
co-op
father,
mode.
Seti I, and his son Merenptah, they were all They were all in that business of rebadging some of the
I
stuff.
don't
So they
have
would find
an
old
invite.
things and they would put their name on it.
They would claim it for themselves. I think it's the nature of I mean, during that period in the New Kingdom, in the 19th dynasty, you know,
It's all I did this, all me.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
the height of
How do I open
dynastic
that tab thing
Egyptians,
again?
Egypt's power and wealth. So they had all of this.
I think that one guy had me turn it
I think
on.
hubris and arrogance to make themselves
What's your
one
name?
of the gods, and it's one of the. I think these statues there's a lot to unpack
what's your
in
name?
these, because I also happen to think that when you look at these massive statues, you can't really explain with the capabilities of the dynastic Egyptians.
I'm 15.
I think
with
it also
Badalina.
explains their iconography, because if they
I
inherited
sent you a
these
request.
giant statues. Like, those
There's a
are
map,
the gods. Like, you're looking at this. Imagine a
Your boy
statue
in
the
there.
size of the Statue of Liberty standing out in the desert, and it's just sitting there looking at you with this face. And
I'm sending you an applied
and the
answer,
craftsmanship
bro.
on these are amazing. You kind of see it here. You see how the eyeballs are like tilted down almost,
Yeah.
Huh?
and it looks like a smile on the face from
Yeah.
here.
I
stole
But
it
when it's
off the guy.
perspective. When you stand beneath them and you look up at them.
See, I
They're
feel like
looking
you
at
guys aren't doing everything you're
and
supposed
it's
to
not
be
so much.
doing.
It's
bro.
not a
I'm trying to
smile.
tell
It's just
you.
like a straight line. It looks straight. They've built.
Did you guys didn't have that
shaped
one
these
screen where
faces
you get to
for
choose a
perspective
weapon?
as if you're viewing them
Like
from
you guys
the
didn't
ground.
have.
They're absolutely
have a
incredible.
horse?
And there's also been studies done on some of these that show the faces are pretty much perfectly symmetrical. Again,
Yeah,
not,
that's crazy.
not something that you can achieve,
Bro, how do these
or not something
missions
that's done in
work,
modern
bro?
artwork.
Here, check
The
out this
perfect
umbrella, bro.
symmetry. That's not
Check this out.
It's not even a
Like, what the
characteristic
fuck?
of a human face. Like, we aren't like that. Our nostrils are different sizes and whatever. But
Look, you see that?
Because we're hybrids.
we could be, or we're imperfect. We're imperfect beings, Joe.
What do we
I
do?
think they made us. I
mean-
think they made us. I think something came
Yeah,
here
I don't
from
have any
somewhere else,
missions,
or something was already here and
Intervention theory.
Teleporter.
did something
Sick.
with lower hominids.
Have you
Where'd
read
you go?
Lloyd
What the
Pye's
hell?
work?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't read any of
Yes,
it.
everything you think you know is wrong. Fun lecture. Rest in peace, Lloyd. He was, and there's some interesting
Yeah, I
genetic
can't.
evidence that's this. I think suggests that as a
Cooperation
possibility. Our chromosomal
correction.
difference between us and other mammals of our type. Almost like we've had the tellurides have been attached. We've been genetically engineered. We
Greg
have,
Braden talks about that.
yeah, we have some real strange characteristics.
Oh, wait, I
for
did this already.
being on this
I
planet.
literally just did
we
this,
dive
the shrine
exposure
thing.
at
I just
80
did
degrees
this.
in the shade. We can't look at the sun. You ever see dogs? You got a dog stare at
That's
the sun
right,
like this, and
I was
like,
like,
what
oh,
are
I
you
just
doing?
killed
Like, I'm
Zane.
fine. Why can't you do that?
just did that,
We can't even see at night. We have no benefit
I
of the
know.
night vision. Yeah,
It's interesting
You guys
also
aren't
when
doing
they
the fucking
look at all these other versions of humans that they find. Almost all of them were more durable.
Oh, broomsticks to axe handles, durable. Like it's
Yeah.
multiple gaps of.
But isn't that kind of in the Bible? Doesn't the Bible say the meek shall inherit the earth?
Well, we're the meek when it comes
I
to
think
like.
we're the meek.
Yeah, we're just the meanest, maybe. But
We're the meanest. We're the meanest and the trickiest because
Yeah.
we had to be, which is like all
Wait, do you not have a
animals.
horse? Actually?
When, you have to. When you're small, like hyenas are fucking ruthless.
Oh yeah.
The reason why they're ruthless is because lions are bigger. And they
I'm
have to figure
pretty
it
sure I
out.
just
You
stole
know,
it
they're
from
just
someone
fucking
walking,
mean
bro.
and nasty. And
I just
think,
pulled them off of it. Now I have a horse. bro.
I think we probably wiped out or interbred with everything that wasn't us.
Did you guys go under?
Yep.
That's a wrap. Sorry, your big bones don't work on arrows.
not doing that?
Yeah.
You dummies didn't figure out catapults yet.
Guerrilla tactics. Yeah.
Yeah, guerrilla tactics, technology. I mean, I think that's also probably one of the reasons why we're so obsessed
I
with
just did
making
this
better
one.
stuff, including weapons.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
there
just
is-
did it.
I don't rule out I mean, personally, my opinion, I think there's either via panspermia
Hit it with the flame arrow.
or intervention theory like that, where we've been. There is a huge mystery as to both our species and then how life itself
Hit it with the flame
kind of
arrow.
kicked off. Like that's even panspermia
Woo.
is like kicking the can down the road problem. Like how does DNA happen? Because one of the most interesting things to me is
Hit it
like
with the flame arrow.
DNA as a technology has never changed, right? So from single cell organisms right down through to us, the way life is expressed as a technology, DNA, like how it expresses life has changed, but DNA, I don't think has changed. Like it's like this one way that life expresses itself, and how it forms is like the actual origins of life.
it's DOS.
It is well,
You guys don't miss the
HOS,
stress over
human
here.
operating system,
Yeah.
life operating system, something like that.
What is your take on those tridactyl mummy?
I don't
things?
know. I think there's. I
Did you
wouldn't.
see Jesse Michaels' episode on it?
Not all of it. I've seen some of it.
Where
Yes,
the scans. You see the scans.
I've seen
of
the scans. Yeah, I saw some of it. I've seen a lot of the information.
I don't want to get tricked. So I'm like, but Jesse
Bro,
said
that shit
that seeing
tweaking,
them
bro.
in person,
No.
I just talked to him about it. He said
That
it was
bitch, bro.
otherworldly. He said it was incredibly strange, like very, very surreal seeing them in person, because it really does feel like it's a different species. Like you're looking at some different species.
My take on that stuff is, honestly, it's like, sure, like to me, the whole alien, other life in the universe was settled. I mean, it's a mathematical certainty. Like the Kepler mission showed it. Like, it's a mathematical certainty that life has to exist in other places on the planet
in some form.
In some form. And then you multiply that out across the span of space and time. Is it possible that we're being visited? Is there something to these phenomena? Yes, I think so. It doesn't. I'm skeptical that we'll ever really. I hope maybe my lifetime we'll know, but would it change what I'm doing?
Wait, we gotta beat the cronies first. We gotta beat the cronies
I don't
first.
think it's
He's
could be part
He's
of the
actually
Galactic
so light,
Federation.
bro.
I'd be like, well, that's cool.
I think
He
it'll
didn't hit
give
me once.
additional
He's actually
perspective.
the lightest word.
Let's go way out there and put that fucking tinfoil hat on tight. If they open up the labyrinth, if they figure out a way to drain the water, and they do find out that 40-meter long metallic thing is something from another place.
Interdimensional.
Something from another place.
Right, yeah.
Or maybe break up civilization. There's a lot of people that think that there were, like
that
there's
cover
us,
fire?
and then there's Neanderthals, right? And then there's... Okay. They all coexisted at one point in time.
Yo,
what if this
doing?
thing coexisted with us as well? And this is a
Cover
different
fire!
version of what we will eventually be. Just like, let's imagine human beings, we maintain a presence
Why does my
on
guy
this
keep
Earth for
laughing,
the next
bro?
30 million years. Let's just imagine that.
Keep stopping to laugh.
Could
Look
be
at him.
crazy,
He's doing
but
it
it's happened
again.
before with crocodiles. If
dick.
we did, what would chimpanzees be like 30 million years from now?
Evolution.
What is
Right, it's not
that?
gonna stop. They're already using
What is
tools, right? There's
You're shooting
speculation.
shit
I
at
mean,
him?
there's
Yo, that's the umbrella, bro. I'm telling
various
you.
scientists that
shit
believe
goes
that you
so
can
bad.
make an argument that many primates are in the Stone Age.
Yeah.
That they've entered into the Stone Age.
Cool.
So let's assume
Yo, why does
that
my guy
this
keep
keeps
laughing?
moving in that
I
general
think the game
direction
might be listening
without
to me,
our
bro.
intervention, which I'm assuming
Like making this sound.
some foreign countries probably would engage in that, and one of them might be America.
Yeah.
we know secretly, like if we're doing this gain of function research on viruses that wind up killing 1 million people, you don't think that we're gonna, if there's some sort of there was talk during the I believe it was World War II.
Fight back,
where
bro.
Russia was.
I'm telling you, that guy is
there was
late as
talk
fuck.
of some
Late
sort
as
of a
fuck.
hybrid between a
think the
human
game
being
is
and a
listening.
chimpanzee. And trying to devise that for soldiers.
I don't know why this guy.
Yeah. Yes.
Must have laughed
yeah.
the whole
Real,
time I'm
right?
talking.
It's real.
Yeah. There's some very strange and interesting
no,
experiments that
God,
happened.
So,
in that period of time.
what if those little fuckers?
Kept going.
What if those little fuckers are like the
Up and about or
the
what?
OGs? Like they're us. Like 1 million years from now, and what we are, the chimps are 1 million years later.
Right.
I
That's
think I
what
picked
we
that. I think
are
I
right
picked
now
that.
currently. They
Yeah.
are what we're going to be.
Yeah.
And then they went, fuck
It's like
we're
keep
gonna-
voicing
little-
that background, bro.
Right. Well, right. Yes. And that's a possibility. In fact, the breakaway civilization
shit.
concept's not a new one either.
No.
Like there a lot of ancient cultures looked at places
Wait, it
like
doesn't even
even
let me
the
open
moon
it again.
as a
What the hell?
refuge. They would call it a refuge. Like that's a whole other theory. Like what's going
Get
on
to
with
the
the
high
moon?
ground.
Is there something happening up there? Was there something that happened with it in the past?
Come push us.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me the
Hey, buddy,
whole
check it.
it's all of these things are completely plausible. Like I don't
I'm watching you.
I
What?
tridactyls or the I mean
Ming, 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 ming,
the
ming,
UFO
ming, ming,
phenomena.
ming,
I
ming, ming, ming,
mean,
ming.
this could have been going on for a long time. I certainly would include some sort of otherworldly craft as potentially one of the
Coming up
explanations
here or
for
what?
what that thing is beneath the ground.
Yo,
the labyrinth,
buddy.
I don't-
Well, even if it's
I don't know
not
where else.
another worldly craft, whatever the fuck
Fuck,
was
it
going
is.
on where someone could make a 40-meter long metallic thing thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. 40 meters is a
Stick it
half
down
of
there.
a damn football field.
Yeah, it's
Push
it's
the door,
big.
fat ass.
That's big.
And stick it underground for some reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Do the laughing shit
Corridor
again, bro.
or
This
in
shit's
a huge
pissing me off.
atrium? Okay.
Yeah.
Like what? All bets are off. If what those Italian scientists are saying is underneath the Giza plateau,
Yeah.
all bets are off. You're looking at something that is like as kooky as the pyramids are. That's the tip of the iceberg.
True. Yeah, that's why I wanted the Labyrinth was so interesting, because that their announcements around what these 800-meter shafts and massive cubes kilometers deep under the plateau kind of came out of nowhere. But there are these accounts for these other places like the Labyrinth where there's some like historical legitimacy to them. Like there's been accounts of them.
Funny, bro.
Although over time, what they're talking about beneath the Giza Plateau. Bro. Maybe not to the full extent of what they're saying. I'm still having trouble with that. But there's certainly a lot more. We know there's a lot more down there, right? That we, at least the public, has never discovered. We know that there are, beneath the bottom of the Osiris shaft, for example, we know that there are further tunnels that go off from there.
What's bro doing?
The Osiris shaft. For people who don't know, is one of the. It's like a. There's three passages, three rooms, and it goes down a little over 100 feet or so beneath the ground, beneath the causeway on the middle pyramid complex. You go down this big ladder.
You did that already, bro.
You go down another ladder. There's a bigger room, boxes in it.
Why do I have to do it? I don't gotta do it.
To the bottom room, which also has boxes in it. Today, it's the water table.
I ain't paying respects to this shit, man.
We know in the past, this is one of the things that has recently come to light, is that down there in the bottom in the 1990s. That was scanned with ground penetrating radar at the bottom level, and they found, there are actually 4 meter long, 8 feet high tunnels with dome ceilings below that, even further, that nobody is.
Yeah, you guys aren't like doing the quest. I
there are
don't
also
think, bro, in the order
tunnels leading off from that bottom level that head off towards the Sphinx and they head off towards the pyramid, and in fact they fork because there was a little known exploration done by a team of Japanese scientists in the early 2000s that got like a camera on a long pole and they shoved it down through the mud and they stuffed it about 20 meters into one of these tunnels, and they found these man-made structures.
You guys are missing out on
like tunnels, and it forks, and it actually forks off, and one seems to head towards the Great Pyramid,
what weapon you got?
And one keeps going up towards Khafra.
Just like
so there's tons of stuff below there, and in fact, if you ever go to the Giza Plateau,
how do I 1v1 somebody?
At that causeway, where if you're heading up towards the middle pyramid, you've got the Osiris shaft on the left, but on the right you have, 10 of these massive shafts that we don't really know how deep they are, or whether or not they've ever been fully excavated, but they just go way down into the ground. So this could be like, it's like the very top layer of things that are being claimed by the Italian scientists and their scans. But there was.
How do I TP on you?
We know that these tunnels extend.
Go to the map.
Down to beneath the Sphinx, for example. Like there's long been rumored that there's a tunnel, an entrance at the back of the Sphinx. In fact, if you go there, there's a little box and a little hole. It doesn't go anywhere. I've stuck a camera in there and had a look, but this is what happened in the 1990s. So John Anthony West, I'm sure you've seen it, Mysteries of the Sphinx, right?
Yeah,
super famous documentary. Yeah, I know he has, but you've seen his work.
Oh yeah.
Wonderful documentary. Charlton Heston.
That's when that archaeologist is mocking.
Ask Andrew.
Yes.
Graham Hancock.
I'm on controller, you fucking dweeb.
Do you know about the 3 T's of Thanksgiving? Turkey for eating.
Like
he said, are you playing on controller? I said, yeah.
Touchdowns for winning with DraftKings Sportsbook.
No, I said I'm playing on
sports
controller.
betting partner of the NFL. Every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in before dessert. With DraftKings Sportsbook, all the action's in your hands. First touchdown, anytime TD, live bets, every play, every snap, every game counts. Big plays, bold calls, and bragging rights. When the games get good, the bets get better. And here's the best part. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. When the touchdowns happen, we feast. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code ROGAN. That's code ROGAN. Bet $5
you have like a little
and get
rock over here.
$200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
That's what I.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-OPEN-WIRE.
You really need some help, bro?
467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire.
Yeah, that guy's about to die.
Required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see bkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Yeah, so he did that research, I think in 1991. 1991 it came out, and John Anthony, he actually won an Emmy for Best Documentary, I think, for it. It was totally warranted. But so he was part of that work. They had a guy named Tom DeBecke who was a ground penetrating radar expert. And he did work around the Sphinx, and he found the existence of like large regular chambers.
Yo, fight back, bro! Stop running!
When that
fight back!
documentary came out, I mean, allegedly Zahi was incensed by it because it talked about Atlantis, and it made the suggestion that this might be, a hall of records that talked about Edgar Cayce. And he then denied after that, John Anthony West and Robert Schoch, any permits to do any further work. But what's weird is that Zahi and Mark Lehner have this long-standing connection with the Edgar Cayce Foundation.
Oh yeah, we're dueling. Oh, you want to duel?
It's this weird dichotomy. It's like on public-facing, they decry anything Atlantis-based, but then on the private side, they seem to be enabling explorations by the ARE. And in fact, they've been enabling the ARE to do drilling experiments and other things at the Sphinx since the late 1970s. And there was an expedition, notorious one that no one ever knew what happened. It was called the Shore Expedition. Dr. Joseph Shaw, Joseph Jehodo, and then a guy named Boris Said were running this Shore Expedition. And Boris Said was a friend of John Anthony West. He was the executive producer for Mysteries of the Sphinx. And this happened in like 95 through about 1997, and they partnered up with Zahi. He gave them a 5-year unlimited permit to do whatever they wanted up at the on the Giza Plateau. And one of the stories that came out of that was a story. So Boris Said, who unfortunately has also passed away since, but he talked about filming Zahi. He said, well, we got to the back of the Sphinx, and he said, we want to make another documentary like the Mysteries of the Sphinx. And he said, we want to open up a tunnel that no one's ever opened up before. And he's like, that'd be great. What sort of tunnel? He said, well, a tunnel under the Sphinx. And Boris said, that'd be fantastic. So I actually filmed him going into the rump of the Sphinx, standing down in there and saying, the quote is something like, even Indiana Jones wouldn't believe that he was here. We're standing inside the body of the Sphinx. Nobody knows where this tunnel goes, but we're going to open it for the first time. And he's down in this space with basically a blocked up tunnel beneath the Sphinx. And he filmed all of this, but then this footage all disappeared. So during the expedition, it was kind of shut down. And then they got into a legal dispute, like Boris Said and Joseph Shaw got into this battle. The footage was never seen, but he went on Art Bell in the late 90s and talked about it. And we're like, God damn, so this... they also talked about stuff at the Osiris Shaft. They did that ground penetrating radar work. They did sonic experiments in the Great Pyramid. There's a lot that happened at this Shore Expedition, run by the they're all ARE members, and the stated goal, Joseph Shaw was always to find the Hall of Records, right? And this all continued into 2000.
Yeah, get cooked, pussy. Get cooked, pussy.
That organization.
You don't know about me, bro.
There was all this tantalizing mystery of this footage. Like, where the
oh yeah, you want it too?
Apparently, the Department of Justice had a copy of it because there was this lawsuit that was going on, and nobody knew. So it's kind of out there. And then it was only like earlier this year.
Wanted his lick back.
So what happened? He thought Boris Said was sick with liver cancer, but he was trying to raise funds to make this documentary. So he put together this tape with some of this footage from this expedition, and he was selling VHS copies of it as a way to invest in this documentary. And then a year later, that's when he passed away. So there's been a handful of these VHS tapes out there in random homes from the mid to late 90s, just sitting there with this tape, and then eventually someone this year actually digitized it, put it up on YouTube as an unlisted video. I found out about it, and so all of a sudden now we actually have this footage. We have Zahi going into the Sphinx.
Oh, I have
at the back saying these words. Yeah, it's if you
about to get
pull
this
up my.
Too.
I think it's the latest or the
you're making fun of Bogey, bro. You're getting this shit even
worse.
Footage
found from the Sphinx. It opens with that footage.
Dude, thank God you're out there. I'm so excited you do this. It means so much to me that you do this.
I love doing it.
I know you do.
Fascinating when you find, I've known about this footage for years and years, and I'm like, oh my God, somebody found it. Yeah, this is it here.
So it is Zahi.
Yeah.
So he's going into this tunnel.
Yeah, so you can this still exists, but then this where he is now doesn't.
What happened?
Well, the story gets more intriguing. So yeah, this is him saying the line, saying we've never opened this tunnel before. We're in the body of the Sphinx, and we're going to figure out where it goes.
This shit even worse, man.
So after that, Boris, they filmed that. This is the early days. So yeah, I'm walking around the back here. I think I poked my camera in there, but I talk about it later on. So Boris Said, who had filmed this with Zahi, he talks to them about, let's make a contract, let's have Zahi open the tunnel, like we'll make the documentary about him opening this tunnel, and we're going to show it to the world, you know? And they talked about it. He went back to New York, and he never heard from them again. They never mentioned his contract, nothing. He never had any further contact with Zahi about it. And then funny thing happens in Egypt about, I don't know, 8-9 months later. And this is as reported by Robert Bauval and Graham Hancock in their book,
I ran into the fucking pool,
Heaven's Mirror. And also I found it in the Arabic publications, but about I think it was 6 to 8 months later, Zahi makes an announcement in El Aram and these Egyptian publications in Arabic that says, I've made this incredible discovery. I've discovered tunnels and chambers beneath the Giza Plateau that's going to change everything we know about the ancient Egyptians and the pyramids. And he talked about finding 3 tunnels. One that was like on the north, one on the south, and then one that was yet to be determined where it went.
Just got done fighting bogeys, man.
And he made this announcement and then never said another word about it ever again.
Whoa.
And this is just in the Arabic papers. And here's the funny thing
But could it be because there's nothing there?
I suspect something else. I suspect that even if there was nothing there, he would have stuck a camera in there and looked at it. I think it's more likely that they found something that might have upset the apple cart and it doesn't.
Could you imagine if they are sitting on information?
Oh, I think.
You think?
Yes, I do. I think there's been plenty of excavations and discoveries that I think were inconvenient for one reason or the other that have probably never seen the light of day.
That's a crime against humanity.
A little bit, I think so. I mean, it's the funny thing that what he said to when I read that comment he makes about 3 tunnels. That's what Al-Adresi and El-Masadi said as well. Like these Herodotus of the Arabs, like 600 to 800.
What? How did I lose?
AD, when they went down, they described the
same. You're not even hitting
3 tunnels.
How do I lose?
Chambers and rooms. It's like lining up with these.
You're not even
same
hitting
as a labyrinth. Like it's lining up with these historical accounts, and then it's just you don't hear another word about it. And when you go to the Sphinx today and you finally pop that little box off its butt, the whole thing's been backfilled. Like the whole, where you see that camera where Zahi was standing, that steel beam's still there, but where his head level is, where he's standing, hey, this tunnel goes, it's like the dirt level's here now. Like it's all been backfilled.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Why would you do that if there wasn't something in there? You would only do it if there's something in there, unless it caved in.
Yeah. To be honest, it's my concern also with the Great Pyramid and the chamber there. It is that I first of all have my suspicions that they may well have already taken a peek with an endoscopic camera into that hidden void. So this is the Scan Pyramids project.
Based on anything in particular?
No. Just my experience with
how they do things.
Yes. So it's there's always there's very little transparency when it comes to a lot of these digs and stuff. And this isn't just the Egypt. This is
full health.
I think. I mean, it's not a criticism. It's maybe more a characteristic of archaeological digs everywhere. Sometimes the way this works is you might have to wait 20 or 30 years or a decade for information to come out because then it has to get perfect. Someone has to publish a paper.
Okay, my question is, bro, how did you kill me at the end, bro? You actually weren't even hitting me, bro. You were running away.
Because it's inconvenient.
Well, I do think that anything that's going to seriously upset the apple cart, like if they came out and found something that was we found the Hall of Records. We found this evidence that is incontrovertible.